Well, good morning. A warm welcome from the UK to Catalonia. As you can tell, I'll be speaking in English, so if you don't have a headset, perhaps now is the time to go and get your headset. We are here to talk about how exciting it is to get people involved in generating new ideas, and we've been a long-time backer at Nesta for GovJam and these sort of celebration events that bring people together. And I'm reassured that whilst you might understand some or most of my English, actually the most important conversation that you'll have to get today is with one another. So these sort of events are built upon the premise that I can give you a framework or some examples or a template that will structure your thinking. But the most important thing you can do today is to have a conversation with someone else sitting nearby, to talk to someone that you didn't come to the event with, to share your ideas and to get excited together about what you might do locally. And so I hope you'll have an opportunity to do that. I'm going to share a few examples of what we've been doing to innovate in public services in the UK. And I'm doing that really from the perspective of a public servant. I used to work for a local authority, a local council in the UK, and now work for Nesta, a charity that's empowering public servants to think differently and work differently. And so I hope that we're on the same page. We understand some of the constraints we sometimes face being an innovator inside of government, but why it really is worth trying to do things differently, that our citizens might get very much better outcomes. Let's start by thinking about why innovation in government is important. Well, I don't think any of you would be here if you didn't think it was. You've given your time very generously to come and think about this. Certainly in the UK, we're facing a very changing landscape. Budgets are getting smaller for public services, and yet demand is increasing. People are living longer. They're expecting more of their government. And I think that probably is similar here as well. And yet most of the government innovation money in the UK, and I think across Europe as well, most of the research and development funding goes to technology, and in fact to technology in the military. That's pretty much where we spend 99% of our money in the UK's innovation budgets, so to building drones or something similar. And that money isn't going towards the biggest societal, environmental challenges of our time, so towards climate change, obesity, ageing, poverty, etc. Now, we know that innovation isn't always easy inside of government. Government services are complicated. They're multifaceted. And money is not always made available for things that are deemed to be risky. Innovators are seen as the risky people on the edge. And I think sometimes there's a lack of understanding about what methods really we can use to make innovation happen. And so what I want to focus my time on this morning is some particular methods that you might be able to pick up, to put into your tool bag, to explain how it is that you're innovating in your service or your department. We found that the conditions, despite all of those challenges, are ripe at the moment for innovation. So people are actually quite open to doing things differently. There's this real economic need where we have less money around, and there's a desire for efficiency. There's a political openness to new ideas, particularly across the European Union. There's also a kind of change in how we do life as citizens, I think. More people are thinking about sharing, collaborative consumption, how we buy things ethically, what implication our activities have on our local community. And so there's a sort of openness to what might we do together. And of course there's technology. Each one of us carries a very small computer in our pockets, a smartphone that is more powerful than the computers of 10 years ago sitting on our desktops. And so we are ready and empowered to do things differently using technology. And it's important that we innovate. It's important we innovate to find new products, new devices. It's important that we innovate to find new social solutions. And in particular, it's important that we work out what is working best. Where is the evidence the strongest for a particular type of intervention? And that we just focus on doing those things that are working really well. We class all of that as innovation, not just brand new things, but also thinking about what is the evidence of what's working at the moment. So, I work for an organisation called Nesta. We're a UK charity, fortunate enough to have an endowment, so to have some money that the government has given us to spend on innovation over the next 25 years. And that means that we can make grants to innovators, give money. We can also run programs and projects to train people up in certain skills. And we can make investments in new social enterprises. And we tend to work across the innovation spectrum, and I wonder if this would be a helpful framework that some of you have perhaps seen before. But the idea being that innovation is not just about the brand new ideas, though it is about generating ideas, as stage 1 and 2 show. But actually it's about developing them, testing them. In particular, I think for us in public services, it's about embedding them. How do you stop doing something that wasn't working and start doing a whole new service or approach? How do we grow and scale things and ultimately change a system? And we at Nesta want to work across those phases. And it might be that you're spending a lot of your time this week at your conference thinking particularly about generating new ideas and developing and testing them. And I'd encourage you also to ask questions of one another. Well, how have you found it's easy to get something embedded into your service? How have you found we can scale up the best ideas so that every primary school in the country or every hospital in the country is able to access them? So I'm going to talk you through just 3 different examples this morning of things that we've done, projects that we've tried, and in particular methods that we've used. So the first is a challenge prize. Now I wonder if you've run a challenge prize before. It's a tool that we use at Nesta a lot, where we set out a particular task that someone needs to solve. Now this isn't a new idea. In fact, it's 300 years old this year. So 300 years ago, people could navigate to the oceans and they could work out what their latitude was. They could work out roughly where they were. But no one had any idea how to pinpoint a ship on a map because we hadn't yet worked out what longitude was. We didn't know how to correlate a location in the other direction. And so the government in the UK set a national challenge, £20,000 for someone who could pinpoint the location of a ship on a map using a device that could go onto all ships in the future. Now, £20,000 was a lot of money 300 years ago, and it took 20 years for someone to solve this problem and to invent longitude, the system that we now all use to create coordinates. And we've been using this same methodology to set a difficult task, a difficult problem. How might we solve this issue with a prize attached to it? And so we've done this most recently with the UNDP, where we're asking, how can we create an off-the-grid energy solution for those people who live in parts of Eastern Europe that don't have electricity? And in particular, it must use renewable energy, it must generate enough kilowatts per hour to be able to power the needs of a local family. And we set it as a prize. And we were talking earlier about how wonderful it is to engage citizens. And so we set this prize, £20,000 for someone who can invent a way of getting electricity to these communities. And we had thousands of people responding. So people who were lying awake in the bath at home, wondering, what is it that we could do differently? Citizens themselves, people from universities who'd been thinking about the technology for this for many years, entrepreneurs in their shed, in their back garden, tinkering away with a project and idea. We got many, many ideas involved. And the winner was able to, for just £2,000, create a system which would allow any family who are off the electricity grid to be able to access electricity. Now, of course, the advantage is school children can do their homework, people can mechanize particular processes, have more time, generate economic investment in the area. But the key for us was to define the problem very clearly, which is a skill, a method I think we need as innovators in government. And secondly, to get lots and lots of people involved. That's what really made the difference, was why have one or two answers when you could have thousands? And in fact, we had 37 people who qualified for meeting the prize in the end. So this idea of getting lots of people involved, I think, is a key method for us as innovators. And I thought perhaps some of the other methods that we use are to crowdsource ideas. So when BP had the oil spill in America a few years ago, and there was oil leaking into the sea each day, they simply asked the world, actually, we don't know how to stop this. Who has a solution? They created a website, asked for people from across the world to add in their ideas, different technologists and specialists, and they found the answer from someone offering advice from overseas. So crowdsourcing ideas. We also do open calls. We say, we're looking for a solution to help older people live at home independently for longer. How might we do that? And ask people to submit video ideas or submit their own ideas themselves. Now, given this is a key method, and given I've already said that we ought to talk to one another, I wonder whether you will turn to someone, and for 2 minutes we'll do an exercise together. So turn to someone that you don't know, that you didn't come to the conference with, and tell them what methods are you using, what ideas do you have to get many more people involved in your service or your department or your public service. So just for 2 minutes, turn to someone next to you and tell them what sort of methods could you be using to get citizens involved in the problems you have.